There are a lot of Bible translations out nowadays, and I thought I'd clarify today about what goes into making a Bible translation specifically. What are the Bible translations that are available to you guys out there, and how we get as Christians should try to understand and hopefully read from these translations, and hopefully read from good translations, which we're going to talk about that. So a lot goes into these Bible translations. First of all, we're translating from a ancient language, a language that is not spoken today. So you have all the texts, they're going to be in ancient Greek and ancient Hebrew. And first of all, we have to find equivalents in the English language nowadays, because there's a lot of words, in case you haven't noticed, if you've ever took a language class and translated between languages, it's not word for word. For instance, there's a German phrase that we use to ask for the butter at the table. It's "Kann ich bitte die Butter haben?" Now, it doesn't translate exactly, "Can you pass me the butter, please?" It translates to, "Can you please the butter pass to me?" Which, that's not right if we're translating from English. So there's a little difficulty in our translation already there, as we can see. Now imagine the tenfold how much the problems we'll get if we're translating from a dead ancient language. So first of all, a lot of effort goes into these good translations. So don't ever go around telling people it's easy to translate Bibles, because it's really hard. Because we want to do this, we want to translate it first of all correctly. Bible translators want to translate it correctly. And secondly, they want to translate it accurately and not change the Word of God. And so when you get to Bible translations, there's going to be two types of Bible translations you'll find. There's word for word translations, which is trying to exact word for word replace in the text. Now, there'll be grammatical rearrangements, of course, because we have to follow the grammar rules that English has provided, which doesn't apply to ancient Hebrew, for instance. And your word for word translations is going to be the NSB, the New American Standard Bible, which is the Bible translation we use on More Than Just Faith. This will also include the ESV, which is a very common translation I found in a lot of churches, the English Standard Version, and that's a really good translation as well. Then there's, of course, thought for thought translation, which is where we're trying to translate a lot of the cohesive thought of the sentence. So instead of trying to translate word for word, we're translating more based sentence by sentence. And so that's how the translation goes in thought for thought translation. This will be versions such as the NIV, the New International Version, the NLT, the New Living Translation, as well as the CSB, the Christian Standard Bible. Both of these are equally valid resources for reading the Bible. I know there's a lot of people who are King James Version onlyist, or solely reading from word for word translations, or solely reading from thought for thought translations. Both are equally good resources, and any good Christian who wants to study the Bible accurately should be reading both translations. When I go to study for my videos, or studying for a study group that I have, or just studying the Bible in general, I'll pull up 4 different versions, both some word for word, both some for thought translations, as I begin to study the Bible. I have a variety of resources in which I can use to study the Bible, both translating sentence for sentence and exact word for word. Now, on a side note, all of these translations that I just said before, these 5 translations that I said under word for word and thought for thought earlier, these are all good reputable translations. And if you're reading them, then just reading them in a sense, you can't go really wrong from that. Now, of course, you can go wrong from interpreting the Bible wrong, but the translations themselves are really good translations. But just, of course, there is a lot of good translations. There is a lot of bad translations out there, and that we Christians need to stay away from them and not read them, because these translations are really bad, because they, first of all, some of them even change the Word of God intentionally. Now, if you know the Bible well enough that adding or changing the words in the Bible, that's a really bad thing. Deuteronomy 4:2 says, "You shall not add to the word which I am commanding you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you." Already in there we can see a problem. We shouldn't be changing the word of God. Revelation 22:18 through 19 backs us up. "I testify to everyone who hears the words of the prophecy of this book. If anyone adds to them, God will add to him the plagues which are written in this book. And if anyone takes away from the words of the book of this prophecy, God will take his part from the tree of life and from the holy city which are written in this book." So as you can see, this is a terribly bad sin for us to be committing, first of all. And so we as believers should be staying away from these translations. But some of these were not changed intentionally. Sometimes they were changed unintentionally because they were translated terribly. Usually when you complete a Bible translation, you'll have a host of people, a lot of group coming together, usually at least 10 people, if not more, come together to translate the Bible together. And for a really good translation to come out, you're going to get a bunch of people from different denominations. So you're going to pull in some Baptists, some Presbyterians, some non-denominational, and a bunch of other mainstream denominations that hold true to the principles of the Word. And so you'll get them together to create a Bible. But a lot of these bad translations, they usually come for a single individual, or maybe just two who have just similar thoughts and wanted to translate the Bible. And so a lot of problems will come from that. Now, I'm going to give you 3 Bibles that I think you guys need to stay away from as Christians. Not only you guys, but as me as well. We shouldn't be reading from these Bible translations. First of all, the Queen James Bible is a terrible Bible translation. I can tell you why. This was a Bible spawned from 2 people who wanted to write a pro-LGBTQ, pro-gay Bible. And so basically they went into the Bible, they edited all of the verses out, speaking out against homosexuality and living in transgenderism and that sort of stuff. And they basically just edited them, cut them out of the Bible, and then presented the Bible like that. They just edited those verses out, and that's the Queen James Bible. And we shouldn't be removing from the Bible, and you can already, I think, see why this is a bad translation. The second translation is the New World Translation. This is the, I believe it's the Jehovah Witnesses Bible translation. This Bible translation was really changed a lot because they want to change the kind of narrative of the Bible, because we know that the Jehovah Witnesses, they don't believe that Jesus is actually one of the 3 members of the Trinity. And so they altered a lot of the verses which point out that Jesus is God and is one of the members of the Trinity and is the Son of God. And so they edited a lot of those verses out of the Bible. And then the third translation is the Passion Translation. This translation is a very interesting one. It came from the ideas of one man. I forget his name specifically. But basically, he said he received wisdom from God on how to retranslate the Bible. And you can already start putting up your spiritual defenses, because whenever you hear that, a lot of stuff has gone wrong when people say they have new revelation from God. And yeah, the Passion Translation, it has some moments. It has some nice moments. But there's a lot of passages which the cohesiveness and the translation of it are just really terrible. I hope this clarifies a lot of the stuff about Bible translations for you guys.